Good evening. This is Maestro Catello with the Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today we have a 1v1 on Calderis Refinery. Our first player today is Dark God. Dark God is playing as the Techmarine. The Techmarine is a ranged hero. Starts out that way at least. You can of course upgrade him to a power axe later on, as well as a variety of different guns. He also is very good at supporting vehicles through repairs and the Blessing of the Omnissiah Global, which is just more repairs. Next up, we got Jashxin or Jashxin. I'm going to go with Jashxin. He is playing as the Chaos Lord. The Chaos Lord is a tanky melee hero. This Chaos Marine walking around in stolen Terminator armor. He can not be knocked down or suppressed. He has a combi bolter in one hand that allows him to do some decent range damage, and even better if you get the combi flamer. He can also get even better melee weapons later on. Alright, so we got a 1v1 here. This is a game that, as far as I know, is between relatively inexperienced players. This replay was sent to me by one of the players in this replay who said that he only had about 200 hours logged onto Retribution. So we might have a game just between less experienced players. We have the Techmarine versus the Chaos Lord. The Techmarine, I feel, is a less common hero than the Apothecary or the Force Commander, but just by virtue of him being a Space Marine hero, he's probably still much more common than many other heroes. But one of the things that's definitely interesting about the Techmarine is that it generally has a high range DPS opening just because of how many units in his composition are ranged units. Right here we have some heretics getting in. They actually get into melee, get off a Doom Blast, but they're already very low on health. They got into that engagement a little under strength because of how much damage they took on approach from the Techmarine and the Tactical Marines. So the Tactical Marines actually didn't need to retreat in spite of the fact that the heretics got into melee and actually got Doom Blast off, because the Tactical Marines the Tactical Marines were just able to tank whatever damage was left from those heretic squads. Here we have another heretic squad that I feel is in a bit of a risky situation. Again, got into melee very, very under strength, and it actually looks like this squad might just go down. In fact, it does. So that's actually one of the things that can be a little bit tough about definitely learning Chaos is heretic management, because heretics are one of the squishiest squads in the game, especially in their vanilla form. When they only have 75 health per model, they're a melee unit, and they even have an ability that is voluntarily killing some of the models. So that is just one thing that can be very, very difficult about learning how to play Chaos. Just the fact that heretics can be very difficult to manage. It can be very difficult to use them properly so that you don't lose the squad entirely. The Chaos Lord, on the other hand, is not terribly difficult to learn how to use properly. There he was actually able to, unlike a squad of heretics, he was actually able to walk right up to 3 ranged units, tank a lot of the damage, tie them up, and then force most of them off with the support of a single squad of Chaos Space Marines. And that's definitely a part of the big advantage of the Chaos Lord, and why he's generally considered, and why he's always been considered a very, very good and powerful hero. Just the pressure he exerts, how much he does by himself. But yeah, so, and I saw in both of those engagements that Jashxin got his heretics in. They just didn't have much health by the time they actually got into melee. And that's both something, a judgment call as far as playing Chaos and learning how to use heretics. You really need to be careful about how you use your heretics. Some strategies you can do with that are you can send the Chaos Lord in first, especially using heretic worship. Then you can unworship the heretics and have them close for melee while the Chaos Lord was the one who tanked the range fire. You can even have Chaos Space Marines go ahead and force melee, have them be the ones that tank the range fire, and then once the Chaos Space Marines get in, you can have the heretics move in. Here we have another extremely, extremely close call, well, very close call, down to the last model. So those are very close calls. Now, one of the ways you can deal with that is actually just going straight for that Aspiring Champion upgrade for the heretics. Now, even that, you still need to be careful about managing your heretics, because they're still not exactly a tanky squad with the Aspiring Champion. They're just not as incredibly squishy as they are in their default form, because you get that single Aspiring Champion model who has heavy armor and a lot more health than the individual heretics. And it even gives the squad overall a 10% health increase. So it brings the squad's total health from 600 to, I believe, 900 something. And that just makes the heretics a lot easier to use. There's actually a time when I would actually just straight up go for that upgrade just because it made using heretics easier. That being said, it's definitely getting more common, or not getting more common, it's definitely been more common among high-level players, and it's starting to get more common among mid-level players to actually forego the aspiring champion either as long as you can or until tier 2. Because it's possible with good management to keep them alive in their default form, still use them effectively, and then save the power cost of the 25 power that it costs to get an aspiring champion, which really is actually quite expensive. I mean, it's just quite expensive in considering with good micro you can manage without it, at least for tier 1, and also considering just how far that can set you back in tech and keep you from getting to tier 2. However, I think the price is well justified considering how much it actually does for the squad, both in terms of the combat capabilities, and then there's also, of course, the fact that it's a detector. We do see a Chaos Raptor purchase out of Jashxin, and unfortunately for Dark God, his Devastators are not set up so that they can start suppressing the Raptors, and that could have made this engagement go a lot better for him. If he had been able to suppress the Raptors immediately right after they were landing, he could micro both the Techmarines and the Tactical Marines away from the Chaos Raptors, and then they could just focus down the Raptors. And that would have been a majorly winning engagement for Dark God, and he would have both been able to keep his Techmarine out on the field, keep his Tactical Marines out on the field without losing all these models. And again, we see those heretics getting very, very close to dying. Especially if you only get, wow, two Devastator models die. Actually, that's not so impressive. They're not that tough. But especially if you are only getting a single heretic, or if you only have a single heretic. Jashxin did lose one of his heretics. It's not such a bad idea to just go for that aspiring champion in tier 1. It's definitely much more expensive if you have 2 heretics and you actually want to get 2 aspiring champions. That's pretty expensive. Although that's definitely something you can do in tier 2. But we see that right here, Jashxin has a very, very light build. He had that second heretic, he lost it, and he only got a squad of Raptors. He didn't decide to get any more squads after that, so he's definitely got a very short tier 1. I do, however, feel that the Chaos Lord is a hero who can afford to go for shorter tier 1s just because of how much he does by himself, how much pressure he can exert. Although, actually, it does seem like Dark God has been winning a bit on map control, in part due to the fact that he actually has a very long tier 1, and despite how big his tier 1 is, he's actually not getting to tier 2 that much slower than Jashxin. Jashxin actually seems like he's getting, like, he doesn't have as much of a tech advantage as I would expect him to have considering the size of his build, so that must mean that Dark God has been having the better end of map control courtesy of his longer build. He actually has a second tac squad right here, and this is just a very, very high range DPS build. So the Techmarine is pretty unique in terms of just how range-centric his early builds can be. Of course, because for most races, their starting units are a melee unit and a ranged unit. For Techmarines. For Space Marines, they have 2 starting ranged units, Scouts and Tactical Marines. And then you also have the Techmarine, who is himself a ranged unit, which is very different compared to the Force Commander, who's a melee unit, and the Apothecary, who definitely starts out as a melee unit. So on average, the Techmarine just has a very, very high range DPS open, just because of most of his units, in this case all of his units, are actually ranged units. And one of the things that's also very interesting is that Techmarine players very habitually do not get Assault Space Marines. Instead, they'll probably get a Devastator, but just very habitually, they will actually not get Assault Space Marines, which is very, very curious. And it's not... Assault Space Marines can definitely work out with the Techmarine. In fact, Assault Space Marines are just a really, really good unit in general, and they can actually still be really, really good with the Techmarine. But for some reason, Techmarine players actually just choose not to do it. Just with the style of play that they choose to do with the Techmarine, they actually choose not to get Assault Space Marines. So that's, again, they're actually taking a ranged unit they're taking a melee unit out of their roster, one of the few melee units that Space Marines have, and then substituting it with another ranged unit. We do now have the Aspiring Champion on this Heretic squad, so he's actually managed to keep this Heretic squad alive, and we see the total increase goes from 600 health to 970, which is quite an increase in total health. And again, some of that is just the Aspiring Champion model, and then there's also a 10% increase to the squad overall. We got Tier 2 purchases out for Dark God as well as Jashxin. He's got a Dreadnought, that is Dark God does. Jashxin, meanwhile, has a Blood Crusher, so they both have walkers. Now, the Blood Crusher is usually considered a time-critical walker. If you want to get that, it's usually best to get it as early as you can because it's much cheaper than other walkers. It's a relatively cheap vehicle, so it's rushable if you have a tech advantage, and the Chaos Lord is also good at getting tech advantages. You can really get that You can get that when your opponent has no AV whatsoever, or even if your opponent's still in Tier 1, and you can force them to play reactively. That being said, that hasn't happened in this game. Oh, Tactical Marine's in a lot of trouble. Might even get wiped here. Wow. Getting very, very close, getting chased down, but they actually don't die. Scouts, on the other hand, now I think they're going to get wiped. And they do, in fact, get wiped. So, Dark God loses a Scout squad. He also lost his Techmarine. Jashxin himself lost his Chaos Lord at one point, but he already bought it back. So he's definitely missed that critical opportunity for the Blood Crusher, and he's also actually got the Blood Crusher out at a time when Dark God got a superior walker. And the Dreadnought both has twice as much health as the Blood Crusher, as well as doing slightly more damage. It does 5 DPS more, I believe. The Dreadnought is definitely 100 DPS heavy melee. That stat I know for sure. And then the Blood Crusher, I believe, is 95 DPS heavy melee. It's either 95 or it's 90, and I'm pretty sure it's 95. The Dreadnought DPS I'm 100% sure about, just like the DPS, and the Blood Crusher DPS I'm 95% sure about. This is not really worth it right here. It's not worth it to... I don't think it's worth it to bleed Raptor models just to get a cap on this point. Well, maybe it is, considering he's actually noting up this power farm, and he'll actually be able to get that power income for a little bit. Now, the Blood Crusher, although as a walker it doesn't do as much damage and it's not as tough as a Dreadnought, so that means it will lose head-on. That said, there are still some advantages that the Blood Crusher has. First of all, the Blood Crusher is faster. It can be in a situation where if it's fighting a Dreadnought and it's losing, it can actually just run out of there, whereas if the Dreadnought's losing, the Dreadnought is at the mercy of a faster vehicle. The Blood Crusher can also get worshipped. In this case, we have Corn Worship, which will make it even faster and also restore its health even while it's fighting. And the Blood Crusher is actually very, very good as a V if you combine it with a Snare, which right now, yep, that's exactly what Jashxin's doing, getting a Havoc, upgrading to the Mark of Tzeentch, which can actually work very, very well with the Blood Crusher as a source of AV, because now we have our Snare, which is also doing quite a bit of damage, and then we have the Blood Crusher, which is also just adding more damage on top of that. Blood Crusher doing about 95 DPS heavy melee means it's going to do about 40 DPS to vehicles, and then the Havoc itself actually does about 40 DPS to vehicles. Did I say 40 for the Blood Crusher? I definitely meant to say 48. And we also have advanced targeting, so Dark God has locked himself out of a las cannon. That being said, the Blood Crusher already taking a lot of damage because it got hit by a missile launcher, and that's actually probably going to go down. And it's also even getting plasma gun hits, which will actually do 20% of the damage from that from that Tactical Marine plasma gun. Will actually go through the vehicle. So Blood Crusher already down. Meanwhile, we have the Havoc actually still taking shots at the Dreadnought, so it's actually getting very close to taking it out, but it's about to get out of the firing arc. Maybe it'll get one more shot off, but it would actually take 2 more shots to finish off that Dreadnought. So Dark God Dark God came out on the better end of that engagement, taking out Jashxin's vehicle, preserving his own, and he lost, wow, he only lost 2 Devastator models. He got away with robbery in that engagement, I think. Or murder, vehicle murder. Havoc's right here, just taking damage. They really just need to get out of there. They're definitely going to lose a Monolith at some point, and he really does not want to lose this Havoc when it's his only source of AV, and when it's also a very powerful one. That was a very close call. It was an extremely close call, and any closer, and that could have severely screwed Jashxin over. Like, that could have definitely had game-changing implications if he had lost that Havoc right then and there. Especially with Dark God now going to Tier 3. He's actually just let his Techmarine sit here for a while. Now, usually one of the advantages of the Techmarine is the incredible amount of repair support that you get. Usually because, first of all, because scouts... Now, first of all, because the Techmarine can repair. Secondly, because double scouts are a very typical build for Space Marines already. And he originally had that, although he lost one. But between a Techmarine and a single scout, he's still got a lot of repair support. And then, of course, he does have that blessing of the Omnissiah Global. So right now we got the Dreadnought. We could potentially see another vehicle in Tier 3. The Techmarine is just one of the best heroes in general, if not the best hero, period, for supporting vehicles. Between just all those things he has, especially when Blessing of the Omnissiah is going to be repairing multiple vehicles at once. And of course, the great thing about Space Marine vehicles is that Space Marine vehicles are relatively tough. Of course, Imperial Guard vehicles are tougher, but I feel like with the combination of getting Dark Age of technology on Dreadnoughts, getting extra armor for Predators, you do overall have tougher vehicles on the Space Marines than most other races. Not as much as IG, but better than Chaos, certainly better than Eldar. And generally speaking, I would say better than Orcs, although there are a few discrepancies right there, mainly with the battle back. Alright, but Raptors jumping in, jump right into a firing arc, but now they actually have... Raptors are now level 3, so they actually did not have to wait very long at all. In fact, I don't think they even had to wait to jump onto that Devastator. And now with their Aspiring Champion, they actually took out that Devastator. So some slow reactions from Dark God, especially because this Raptor doing quite a bit more damage at level 4 now, also with that Aspiring Champion, although he just got killed. But that Aspiring Champion having that Lightning Claw, and Scout's actually getting very, very close to dying. So Dark God nearly lost a Scout. Dark God is now struggling a little bit. Havoc taking shots at the Dreadnought, but the Dreadnought has a lot more health now. At level 3 and Dark Age of technology, 1,752 health, and it's not going to be able... The Havoc is just not going to be able to take out that Dreadnought. So Dark God winning that engagement. Now, he might be trying to save resources to get out some kind of Tier 3 unit. However, the best... I feel like the best Tier 3 units for him to get would be vehicles, and if he was going to get a vehicle, he would also want to get his Techmarine back at some point. Unless he wants to get Terminators, he is swimming in red. So we might also see like an orbital bombardment from him at some point. Jashxin as well is also swimming in red. Swimming. So we might see an Imperial Abyss out of him. These Heretics need to go. The Aspiring Champion really does help out the squad, but by himself... Yeah. Level 3 Heretics, by the way. We're actually seeing a lot of leveled squads. Ooh, that's a very close call. I actually think if that Dreadnought had gotten that melee hit off, I think he actually would have wiped out that Heretic. But we're seeing a lot of leveled squads. Level 4 Raptors, level 3 Chaos Space Marines, level 3 Heretics, level 4 Chaos Lord. Only level 2 Techmarine because he's been dead for a while. Even level 3 Scouts, level 3 Tax, level 3 Tax again, and level 3 Dreadnought. And now, unfortunately, that could partly be a sign that these players are really not having great preservation. They've definitely lost a few squads because it's definitely, I feel, a little uncommon for all of these units to be as leveled as much as they are, considering this is a Space Marine versus Chaos matchup. Havoc taking more shots at the Dreadnought, but the Dreadnought is now out of there again. Now, ironically, one of the things he could do, aside from, he needs to move up his las cannon. One thing he could do, he could actually have the Raptors melee. They would bleed from that, but they would also be able to do a little bit of damage, and he would actually want to start shooting the Dreadnought, even with the Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines, for whatever little light damage that they do. but he's actually giving up on the Dreadnought. And the Dreadnought, ooh, I think one more Havoc shot would have done it. I believe a las cannon shot does 160 damage. Dreadnought is at 153. We do now have a Predator, but now Dark God is actually not in a good situation to support vehicles, aside from using the Blessing of the Omnissiah Global, which you can actually spam. But I mean, his Techmarine is still on the ground. He lost his level 3 scout squad, which is more than a little unfortunate for him. Having both a level 3 scout squad make it so much tougher, and as well as the repair support that he would have had out of that. Now I actually think he should prioritize getting his Techmarine back next, as well as putting a new scout squad on the field to support the repairs that he needs. Because right now he's actually giving up a lot of field presence, just walking around. He might even want to just use the Blessing of the Omnissiah Global.
The enemy is capturing
So maybe even go ahead with the Predator and the Tactical Marines. Just in case the Predator starts taking some damage, he can just use that Blessing of the Omnissiah Global, have the Dreadnought repair up, while the Predator also repairs any damage it starts taking. But, I mean, he really is giving up a lot of ground when he had a significant VP lead as a part of losing his remaining scout squad, and also not getting back his Techmarine ever.
Understood.
And he's also, wow, suffering massively in terms of requisition income. It's both a combination of upkeep from having 2 vehicles, 2 Tactical Marines, and also lack of map control from not having any additional requisition points aside from his natural. So it's actually imperative right now that he does not bleed from his Tactical Marines. I think he bled quite a bit from... He lost 2 models on this one. He's got this one in the field that only lost 1. I think it was lucky to only lose 1, taking fire from level 4 Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines. But this Predator right here should be able to do some nice damage to the Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines, because the Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines are just going to be taking burst damage from that Predator autocannon. And they're going to, even though we see that the Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines are doing some very light damage to the Predator, we see that the Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines are clearly not winning that fight. They are clearly bleeding. Now, however, Dark God is in a really bad situation, and he loses the Predator. Wow, just really overwhelming anti-vehicle response there. We had the Havocs. I thought we had Plague Marines somewhere, and we also had Raptors upgrading to Melt-A-Guns. Very, very... like in the middle of that engagement, they upgraded. And then we had a Melt-A-Bomb go off after the vehicle was already dead. Plague Marines retreat out of there. So that vehicle died very decisively. And Jashxin actually has quite a lot in terms of anti-vehicle. Now, ironically, now might actually be a good time to get Assault Marines for Dark God, if he could afford it, that is. Just in terms of how much he's dealing with in terms of AV, because he has both Havocs and Plague Marines to deal with. If he had an Assault Marine squad to jump on that Havoc, that would do a lot to reduce the outgoing range, the outgoing AV damage from Jashxin. That being said, Jashxin is doing a lot to do things himself to reduce his outgoing damage. He lost his Raptor somehow, and even bled 2 models from these Havocs. Meanwhile, we got both of these guys still floating a huge amount of red. Forget floating, they're drowning in red now. 999 from Jashxin, 904 from Dark God. So Jashxin, he could put Chaos Terminators out on the field. He could do an Imperial Abyss, which is not entirely recommended. More recommended would be using the Bloodlust Global, and also maybe using Blood Sacrifice.
Scouts here. Go ahead.
But this has to be a level 4 Dreadnought now with 1,897 hit points, which is quite a bit if you consider that the starting damage for that was, the starting health for that was 1,200. We have a Terminator call-in right here. That's a slightly risky Terminator call-in, and I also feel like he's not entirely capitalizing off of it, unless he wanted to go for maybe the Dreadnought, but not so much. And if you're gonna call in Chaos Terminators this close, you might as well force melee. He's going to force melee now, maybe take out the attack squad. No.
To capture the target.
And the Techmarine, he was revived apparently, and he goes down again. So Dark God, I feel like he was winning earlier on, but Jashxin has the VPs almost going back in his favor now. And we have Tactical Marines trying to, I think just trying to sight for an orbital bombardment. And that orbital bombardment, yeah, he was trying to sight because he wanted to get the, oh my god, he has to retreat through it, and he wipes all 4, loses all 4 attack models in a single blast. Oh man. He was trying to sight with his Tactical Marines so that he could get the heretics on the point. And he was also trying to go for the Zenchcast Space Marines and the Terminators. He managed to kill nothing but his own Tactical Marines.
Behold, traitors in the flesh.
Oh man. Alright, las cannon setting up a little too close. Now, I don't know where the Terminators are going. They should actually stay here. I really don't know where the Terminators are going. They're going for these scouts maybe or something, but the Terminators, if anything, I feel should have committed to this fight. They would either win against these Tactical Marines right here. They could even be used to damage the Dreadnought. And I mean, as it is, we have Jashxin nearly losing a Heretic squad. Does, in fact, lose the Heretic squad. So, unfortunately, despite the luck that Jashxin had with Dark God wiping his own Heretics, unfortunately, he really just hurt himself with that. Because if he had used a combination of Bloodlust on the Terminators, he actually could have done a lot of damage to that Dreadnought and put it in a really bad position. Alright, he might wipe out these scouts right here. Oh god, that last scout really got it really, really bad. But Dark God has like no units left. He's got 1 tac squad and a Dreadnought, but he has a double cap.
Orbital artillery guns are ready to fire.
Scouts ready to earn our place.
The enemy is claiming a victory point. The enemy has 100 points remaining.
Alright. Terminators get the decap off. We have a completely even 98 to 99, but is that a Venerable Dreadnought call-in? If that is, that's actually really, really bad for Jashxin. Although he's actually going to take out the... He's probably going to take out the regular Dreadnought. Is he? Las Cannon is now shooting at the Venerable and is not... Oh my god, the firing arc... both of the Dreadnoughts are outside of the firing arc, and now both of the Dreadnoughts are tying up the AV. Oh my god, and now we finally have the blessing of the Omnissiah Global, and that's actually going to make it... Even then, even the Terminators at this point should not engage the Dreadnoughts.
Let us indulge them.
Oh no! This could actually be the end of the Terminators. They got hit by the Emperor's Fist. Are they going to teleport out in time? Is teleport on cooldown? That's going to be the end of these Terminators. Terminators are gone. We already have a level 2 Venerable on top of this level 4 regular Dreadnought. Jashxin, meanwhile, has a level 7 Chaos Lord, so we certainly have some high levels, but unfortunately that's in part due to not such good preservation. Level 2 AV squads. Now, hilariously, this is now pretty much going in Dark God's favor. After blowing up his own Tactical Marines, it's going in his favor. Scout Squad actually gets wiped by the Zenchcast Space Marines, but the Zenchcast Space Marines do not manage to get the point. Chaos Lord is engaging the Venerable, but he can definitely not do that with just the Combi Flamer. Because he's still got, aside from the bonuses he gets from leveling, he's still got the starting range damage. He's setting up his las cannon. as well as his Plague Marines. What he actually needs to do now is move up, have his AV squads target the vehicles, and then have a unit like the Chaos Lord, especially with his shield, go for the point. That's exactly what he needs to do right now. Takes out one of the Dreadnoughts. This would actually really be his chance to get back into the game, so I'm really disappointed to see him not really doing anything. Like, he needs to move up the Chaos Space Marines, move up the Chaos Lord, move up the Plague Marines and the Havocs, just to... He has... Oh my god, Jashxin still has everything he needs to win this game, but he needs to move up his AV squads so that they can actually take out... You know what? The Dreadnought is actually in range. The Dreadnought... Oh, but the Dreadnought is charging. The Dreadnought charges in. He needs to put the Chaos Lord back on the point, though, to capture the point. I forgot about that charge, and that charge is big. And we still have the scouts around. The Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines, if anything, should have tried to stay out on the field to deal with the scouts. Plague Marines, please turn back around. Hit the Dreadnought. Now the Havocs need to go. Unfortunately, now we have another vehicle out on the field. We have a Space Marine Predator, but we also have a Chaos Predator. Alright, Plague Marines need to kite back. They need to come back down here. They need to draw the Dreadnought toward the Predator. Draw the Dreadnought toward the Predator, and the Predator needs to go for that Dreadnought. Should be able to take out the Dreadnought. What? Alright, now we actually need a combination of the Chaos Predator and the Space Marine Predator to go for this Predator, but it's upgrading to extra armor. He also needs to send one of his squads, any one of his squads, to capture his natural VP. It doesn't matter which one at this point. And the Venerable is actually getting a huge amount of health regeneration from Blessing of the Omnissiah. It is refusing to die. Oh my god, takes out the Chaos Lord. This is very disappointing, though. Dark God, again, still has what he needs to win the game, but he needs to get one of his squads on this point. Stop worrying about reinforcing them. And oh no, please do not lose the Predator to the Venerable Dreadnought. Oh no. Oh god. He's getting a new Plague Marine squad, but what he needs is his existing squads out on the field. That's what he really needs. Havoc's unfortunately right here walking forward a little too bit, and they're actually going to take too much damage from that Predator, unless the Predator decides to start focusing on the Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines. But he actually just retreats them out of there. Now it's going to focus on the Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines, and the Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines are not going to be able to do a whole lot about that. But I mean, at this point, Dark God actually has the game, because he's going to get a double cap on this VP. Jashxin is still trying to get the cap on this VP, and he's not. I don't think he's going to be able to get to the middle in time. He actually, his only chance would be right now, this Tzeentch Chaos Space Marine squad, make a beeline for the middle, just go around here, go straight to that middle VP, go and capture it. But he needs to go like now, because he does not have any more time. Just whatever squad can actually get to that victory point, he needs to put it on it right away. Like immediately. Like as soon as it gets there, like don't stop. Because he can win against the scouts. Unless... No unless. We have a new Predator. We have two new Predators coming out from... two new Predators coming out from... Dark God. Actually, a Predator and a Dreadnought. But, I mean, now Jashxin is overloading. He's loading up on anti-vehicle. He's got 2 Plague Marines and a Las Cannon Havoc, and they're leveled. We have a level 2 Plague Marine, level 3 Havoc. So now the vehicles are actually ending up not being a good idea, and there's the Imperial Abyss, which I don't even think that was really necessary to finish off that vehicle at all. But he did it anyway. We have scouts backcapping again. Hopefully Jashxin is paying attention. Oh my god, Bloodletters, please don't go. Bloodletters just staring at the scouts, saying, what are those silly Space Marines doing?
scout finished. Scouts under attack. This day.
Alright. So, after everything is all said and done, I think Jashxin actually will take this game. Scouts shooting with their bolters, but not enough. Yeah, just not enough. And now we have Assault Space Marines. But double cap for Jashxin, now triple cap, and that's actually going to be the game definitely in his favor. Made a few too many early calls that ended up being wrong, but... Oh man, look at all these Space Marine bodies.
One of our own has died. Those who
Let me see if I can find any more Space Marine bodies.
never truly defeated.
You know, mostly right here. Look at all those Space Marine bodies. Even a sergeant right there. Let's get a closer look at that sergeant. Oh, it's Diomedes. What is he doing here? Alright. Hope you enjoyed the cast. Have a good night.